It's a little bit after 5:45, but we'll start this work session. Get it underway. We have our attorneys here and our department heads, our council. So after 6:30, we'll begin our regular meeting after our work session. So at this time, I'll open the floor up to Butch, if you'd like to introduce our newest member.
Thank you, Mayor. If I can take that moment of personal privilege, this is Brian Kilgore. Brian's the newest lawyer in our firm. Today's his first day. He comes last week. He was a city attorney for the city of Madison up in North Alabama, one of the Big Ten cities, and he was 10 years prior to that was with the city of Birmingham. He litigated with the city of Birmingham, handling their litigation and their defense. And before that, he had a brief stint with Jefferson County as well too. But we're pleased to have him with us, and thank you for allowing me time to introduce him to you.
Anything you'd like to say to us?
No, I'm just happy to meet everyone and looking forward to working with everyone on the dais.
It's good to meet you. Appreciate you being here.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Do you want me to report on the litigation status, Mayor, or you want me to do that at a later time, or not at all?
You can brief us real quickly if you've got something going on.
You got the Ballou case that y'all all probably follow. You know, it went through this is the one with involved the attempt to stop the swimming pool, and they sued our officers in the city. They lost it at the district court level, they lost it at the circuit court level, and then they petitioned for certiorari to the United States Supreme Court, and that has now been denied, so that case is over, that's final. The other that we got should be getting around, Connie, I don't know if they've started coming in yet, on the opioid settlements, that'll be coming in. You got one other case, you got the Bynum case the Water Board has, that we got a favorable result out of the court, and then they filed an appeal, but it's just been sitting there, and there's been no action taken on that, nobody's pushing, that's the only litigation that the city's involved in.
Thank you, Butch. We'll hear from Kevin.
Just what's on the agenda.
Okay. Stacy. Kevin.
The 2025 budget is on the agenda for tonight. I just let the public know it's a $45 million budget, and revenues are budgeted to exceed expenses by $42,000. There's $5.8 million in capital in the budget, and the budget includes a 5% COLA for all employees that will start on the first check in October. Employees will receive a 30% step on their anniversary date if they're not stepped out, and there will be a longevity paycheck based on years of service in December.
Chief.
We've got our annual 9/11 stair climb challenge. We're going to do it a little different this year. It's going to be at Workout Anytime, just like it has been, I think, the last 3 years. They sponsor it for us. And this year, we're going to have a little internal competition between shifts at the police department and admin. Admin's not going to win. And our SROs. We've also got the school involved. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the mayor's son is going to be one of the ones from the school competing, along with school staff, admin staff from the high school. So, and the fire department is going to have their own internal challenge between shifts. So we're going to make a little more competition for it. We're doing it in remembrance of 9/11 and all those that gave their lives on that day. And also we raise money for Special Olympics when we do the stair climb. So I'd like to invite all of you to come out. At the police department, we're going to have a first place trophy and a last place trophy only, because if you're not first, you're last. That's kind of the way we see it. But and if I can do it at my age, I expect all of them to be out there doing it. But we'd love to have any of you come out. It's going to be pretty much all day on 9/11. We're going to start mid-morning. And of course, when school's out, then the kids that are going to compete and the admin staff from the school are going to come out and compete as well. So it should be a fun day. You're all welcome to come out.
Seth.
No, sir.
Bill.
The only thing I got is on the, I think the Waterstone streetlight request is on there. I just want to make the council aware that there's, of that request, there's 5 of them that are on streets that we have not adopted yet. That's the first part of Waterstone Way when you drive in, and then Waterstone Court, which would have been phase 1 and 2 of Waterstone, that we have not adopted those streets. I just want to make sure the council is aware of that.
Reggie?
I don't have anything, sir.
All right, okay.
First off, I want to start off thanking everyone involved for the street repairs for Enclave subdivision. That situation there is so much better now. So everyone involved in getting that done, we're so grateful. Also, Bill, I need your help with additional street issues, and that's with the mayor's support. The residents are inquiring about issues in a few other neighborhoods, and if you can look at these, please, if you can, I would appreciate it. The first one is Ridge Crest. It needs evaluation for repaving the streets. They were not finished by the developer, apparently.
No.
And it's my understanding that the base coat was never put down.
I haven't looked to see where he left off, but a lot of times that's what it is. The wearing course probably was not put on, but I don't know that for a fact.
Well, their streets are bad too. The developer went out of business, I believe, in 2009.
Probably. A lot of them did, yeah. But no, we haven't adopted that street yet.
Okay, so, what are we looking at as far as dealing with that?
That was a question, Butch, I'd sent over to you last week or so about streets that we had not adopted yet, what we can, should, and would do on situations like that.
That's basically, of course, the mere fact that the street's dedicated doesn't mean you've accepted it for maintenance purposes. And I think Bent Owens in my office responded to you on that question, but that's the answer to it, is that the city has not yet accepted it for maintenance. And until you do that, or until it's accepted by user, by the public, for the county, we use a 20-year standard. If it's not accepted, but the public takes it over and uses it anyway for 20 years, we determine that the public's accepted it for maintenance purposes, and they take it over as though it had been accepted for dedication, but not until it's been used for 20 years. That's an oversimplification of the actual law that deals with how the public can and cannot accept a dedication, but that's the shorthand rendition of it, and that's how we do it at the county, and it seems to work. We've done it on several subdivisions.
So you determine dedication by date of recording of final plat or date of signature of final plat?
Well, the dedication is a recording of the plat, but the usage is when it actually begins being used by the public. You might have a dedication that doesn't get opened and used for the public for 4 or 5 years. Well, that 20-year period wouldn't start running until that time. But that doesn't mean the city couldn't do something with it if they wanted to earlier. But that's when it becomes a mandatory issue, and you do need to maintain it, just like any other public street under the code.
So are we going to look at what?
Probably what needs to happen is, there's several streets like that in the city. Probably what needs to happen is take that list, see what needs to be done, and then based on what Butch is saying, make a determination of first use date. Then go from there. You know. That's and then you just have to come up with dollar figures and try to rank them. Go from there. That's probably. And if you would get Bent to if you will, I don't remember seeing an email from Bent, but if you could ask him to kind of. I may have missed it. If you get him to resend it.
Okay, he talked with me about it, and we discussed
Okay.
that, and I thought he was responding, but that essentially is what we came up with.
Okay.
So we need to determine when the public started using those streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been a while, so it has to be close to 20 years already.
I have no idea.
Okay.
Like I said, there's several of them. It'll probably just, those streets will just need to be cataloged, cost estimates assigned to them, and then, come up with, make a best effort on looking at the first public use date. Go from there. Start
Okay.
working down that list.
Stonebriar has the same problem as does Old Ivy and Timberline.
Stonebriar's complete.
We did
Yeah,
fix Stonebriar already?
Stonebriar's complete, yeah.
Oh, great. Oh, y'all did that last week?
Stonebriar's
Oh, thank you, we appreciate it. Well then, would you also, like I said, with the mayor's support, look at, Old Ivy and Timberline as well?
Old Ivy is on, if I'm not mistaken, it's on the paving list in the 2025 plan.
Okay,
Timberline still has an active developer, so that would, any street that we don't own in Timberline, I would need to get the developer to make those repairs.
well, like I said, whatever you can do and
Okay.
re-express and, include it in the list if you would. Also, the residents in Union Station are having issues with the high sewer covers. They're blowing out their tires at night when they run into them.
Yeah, oddly enough, the HOA president drives a garbage drive for me, so he hit me up this afternoon. We accepted those in December, so I'm gonna have to look and see what the deal is on that, what we can do to fix that. See if we can do some work around the manhole lids on that, see what's going on with it. So I owe him a follow-up in the morning on that.
Oh, okay, great, thank you. Also, on Thursday, August 22nd, I took pictures of construction vehicles traveling from Camden Park back and forth through Emma Ridge Drive, crossing Amber Drive constantly to Turquoise Lane, that Phase 4 development, and the construction entrance wasn't being used at all. So we need to work on a stronger ordinance to help protect our subdivisions from this type of misconduct. Our citizens shouldn't have to be left with the burden of paying to repair the streets developers destroy. So I'm asking the mayor, with the support of the council, to have legal review of ordinances related to the street violations and to develop language for stronger enforcement by our police department, because they have just plummeted our streets, and they don't seem to want to stop. So we need stronger ordinances to stop them from destroying our streets. Because here again, when they destroy the streets, then we're back asking what can be done to repair the streets. Well, the developers need to be stopped. So, any suggestions as to our legal counsel?
Well, of course, you have the power to set weight limits. The short answer is no. I don't have anything, and I don't know of any of the other cities that have a specific ordinance dealing with that. But I'm sure there's some out there. We could explore that and get them for you. But the main issue is that if it's a public street, you can't keep people off of it. People have a right to access it. And
Even if they have a designated construction entrance, and those overweight trucks are destroying the residential areas, they have access to their construction areas through the construction entrances, and they're just not using the construction entrances.
you can set appropriate weight limits.
this was discussed back when the ordinance was put in place about weight limits, weight restricted streets.
Yeah.
And that was a question I posed back then, how do you enforce it? Do you have the equipment to enforce that?
We don't. And we, actually, since we started having this discussion here, I've discussed this matter with our prosecutor as well as our judge. And some of my senior officers initially had a problem with pulling a vehicle over, making a traffic stop based on us guessing the weight. And I believe our ordinance is 20,000 pounds. I think 40,000 is the state DOT, if I'm not mistaken. I believe our ordinance is 20,000 pounds. The problem, though, is we don't know what vehicle's going to be overweight or not. If it's a cement truck, we don't know if it's loaded or not. And the prosecutor and the judge agreed that they were not comfortable with us pulling them over in the first place. But the second issue we have is we do not have the equipment to weigh the trucks. And I checked with the surrounding municipalities, and nobody does that. The state will do it for us, but they will only enforce the state law, which I believe is 40,000 pounds, and ours is 20,000 pounds on clear streets. So it is a problem. And in looking at the ordinance for the route, the construction entrance, I don't see any enforcement avenue for that in that ordinance either, and our judge and our prosecutor didn't see an enforcement from the police department avenue for requiring trucks to use a construction entrance. I know that Bill had contacted some of the people that were doing work in there and asked them to stop doing that, but evidently that didn't.
Willie, all right, so for that day, they got confused. So they were going to Camden Park is where they were paving. So when they pave, you may have 6, 7, 8 different type of trucking companies bringing in asphalt. And they were going through Camden Park, and some random resident stopped them and said, "You can't come through here, you got to use construction entrance." So they was coming up the road, they saw construction entrance, and they didn't know which construction entrance it was, so they turned in the construction entrance for Emerald Ridge and then found out, oh, I'm not in the right place. I've got to go across and go over to get to Camden Park. So that's a story that they told us, that, you know, somebody in Camden Park stopped them and said, "You can't come down the street with that. You've got to use a construction entrance. Camden Park doesn't have a construction entrance." So as they came up 16, they saw a sign that said construction entrance, so they turned in, but it was wrong construction entrance for the wrong subdivision. So,
Okay, so
Oh.
then, like I said, I'm just trying to get to how do we stop, they're still doing construction in that area, so how do we make sure that they're not destroying our streets? Because it comes back to the taxpayers to fix the plummeted streets.
yeah, I think I talked with Roger about that. We was going to get the developer on each side, you know, from the entrance of Camden Park and then the entrance of the new phase of Emerald Ridge to put up, you know, no construction traffic. So if that did happen, if they turn in there, they'd see that sign that they're entering an area of no construction traffic. I know we have it on the main road, but maybe putting it, if you were coming from Camden Park in Emerald Ridge, if there was a sign there on it, basically on bookend sides of those tie-in roads, have a sign, you know, have the developer put up a sign, "Hey, no construction traffic." You know, maybe that'd get their attention a little more.
How soon did they say they would do that?
I haven't followed back up with him since that. That would have been that Thursday or Friday. So I haven't. I'll follow back up with him tomorrow and see what they say. Shouldn't be a big deal to put them up. So.
Otherwise, we need to get the state police involved.
No, ma'am, they could only enforce the state DOT law, which is not our ordinance. And they said they would come out, they would weigh trucks, but I believe it's 40,000 pounds. I sent you the documents. I believe it's 40,000 pounds is what they enforce, if I'm not mistaken. I'm just relying on my memory. And I believe our ordinance says 20,000 pounds for city streets. They could not enforce, or they would not enforce our ordinance. I did call them and ask them about that.
Well, just checking with our legal people now, can we have some language changed in our ordinance, that we would have something stronger, a tougher penalty of some sort, a fine or whatever, in order to somehow slow this down?
Well, I'm not sure I understand the question, but you could pass an ordinance, but you're still basically dealing with weight limitations. That's what you got to do. You can't say no trucks are allowed. If people got a pickup truck, would have a right to come and go. And you might have an unloaded ton and a half truck. It would not be, and you can't. And of course, you got the added problem, and I don't want to make it more complicated than it is, but if it happens to be a truck that's involved in any way with stuff that's going interstate commerce, you've got a problem. You can't limit them anyway on the federal law. So it gets really complicated. The county runs into the exact same problem, Chief. And we made one attempt several years ago to stop and weigh them, and it just didn't work out. And we don't have the equipment to do it, and the expense, and so we don't do it. We post bridges based on carrying capacity, but it has to be engineered, and you have to be able to justify it. You have to, what the weight limit on one road might be justified at 40,000, and on another road it might be 20,000, another might be 80,000, depending on how much base is there. You've got to really do, to make it stand up legally, you've got to do an awful lot of engineering homework on it's got to be on a road by road basis. It's very tough to do.
Okay, moving on, do we have an update on the striping of Second Avenue? Will that be in the 2025 budget? I thought we discussed that.
No, I did not put it in there. If you'll note, most of city streets do not have striping, and MUTCD requirements, low traffic, low volume, low speed streets, it's not recommended. I mean, if you look at most of our streets, none of them, you have stop bars, but as far as center lane or edge pavement striping, you look at most of our city streets, we don't have it.
Well, that one previously did, and it's got a lot of inclines.
It does, but it's...
fly over those on the wrong side.
It's still low volume, low, I mean, I think your speed limit's on at 25 is what you're supposed to be at. And I think it has, 5 or 6 stop signs on it. So low volume and low speed, it's not necessarily recommended by MUTCD, and that's why a lot of local streets don't have it, because it's not considered a good, good spend of money. That's why you don't have them in subdivisions.
I can understand that not in the subdivision, but that one gets a lot of traffic, and they're not going 25. They might go 25 when they pass the speed detector that the chief has out there, but other than that, they're whipping over those hills pretty fast, and it's just a safety concern to make sure that they're on, even if it was, what is it, you can have markers at nighttime that they would notice that they're on the wrong, that they're not in their lane. But, if you would, just look into that and give us information when you can. Also, do we have updates on the hotels, Holiday Inn Express, Home 2 Suites, Comfort Inn? When is the expected construction date to start?
Holiday Inn, we're still waiting on a couple of things on the permit. Home 2 Suites they're in construction right now. Comfort Inn, they have not. I don't know if they've turned in everything, but we might be lacking one more thing, 1 or 2 things for the permit, but I think everybody's named their GC and most of their subs, so they're getting ready to start also. But the only one that has physically started construction is Home 2 Suites.
Well, thank you. That's all that I have.
All right, Debbie.
This may go back to the street issue on Waterstone Phase 1 and 2. We did not accept those streets, pieces of them, because they didn't have the top coat on it. So would that go back to the 20-year use rule or whatever about getting those accepted, dedicated?
That appears.
If a subdivision, I'll call it subdivision, has actually put some security monies up, can we use that to offset our expenses?
If there are any sureties on hand, in that case, I'm not aware of anything that's that's outstanding, it's on hand.
Okay.
That was phase 1 and 2.
1 and
which
2.
is- I think that developer came and went pretty quick, didn't
Mhm.
it, years ago?
The other thing I have, I noticed that our neighboring cities are actually cutting the grass on the right of way, and I know we've been told that we don't normally do that for state highways, like 31, for example. Is it that these cities have special privileges with the state or something to cut the right of ways? Cut the grass?
We've cut along 31 and 25 ever since I've been here.
Well, sometimes it looks like it hadn't been cut, so that's why I'm asking.
It may-
And I thought we've been told that.
Remember, we're on that was the request for additional people. Right now, we're on about a 3-week cycle.
Okay,
Sometimes 4 weeks if we get rain or have somebody quit.
okay. All
But we cut it.
right. Chief, I have a question for you. Concerning the first home football game, how did you feel that the security was with that, with the temporary fence?
That was the first one I remember where we really didn't have any calls at all. And I heard a lot of positive comments from the people there. I thought it went really well.
Perfect. And how about your staffing? Are we down officers now?
Yeah, we are. I had hired 3 and 1 after a week left. And so we're still down right today I'm at 33. I was 37 when I got here 4 years ago.
And I noticed that a neighboring city is also having the same issue, but some of the other cities are not. Do you feel that the cities that are not having the staffing issue are pulling from us?
I haven't lost very many to other departments. Most of the people I've lost have gotten out of law enforcement, and most of them are going to higher paying jobs. But they're not typically going to other police departments, no. But I was at a conference this week with law enforcement from all over the state, and a lot of departments are getting close to staffed around us in Shelby County. A lot of the departments seem to be doing a little better now. You know, in Jefferson County, that's not the case. And Montgomery, some of the larger cities around the state are still very, very short, much more so than we are. But it doesn't take but a couple, though, to hurt us, because we have 3 on one night shift covering, roughly 84 square miles. And, you know, when I get complaints, traffic complaints, or complaints about people waiting 45 minutes to an hour for an officer, I mean, I'm getting those all the time, but there's nothing we can do about it. I just listen. You know, because if it's, can't get blood out of a turnip, and unfortunately, recruiting's difficult. We had 11 that took our test, which was good recently, but we didn't hire any of them. We haven't lowered our standards. Our standards are actually higher than the state minimum for several different areas, and I don't want to lower the standards. I could get bodies, but I don't want to do that. I mean, it's been a disaster some places around the country that have lowered their standards and hired people. It's in my opinion, too important a job to lower our standards. I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It does. I just worry if you're losing staff, if there's something that we need to do as a council to help it, so that you're not losing. I guess I'm looking for something for retention for your staff. So Kelly, there's a couple things that I saw on the budget. I don't want to just bring them out here at the moment, but is there something that we can talk about later as a council and to see if it was actually correct on what we decided?
I mean, if you pass the budget tonight, you can always do a budget adjustment. I mean, it's a living document, so you can
Okay.
come back and pass an adjustment to that. I know Kenny Dale had mentioned some concerns, and I checked into those on some items that were discussed. There was a question on if you guys had decided to take it out or not, because, you know, I know at the last budget session, it was the 4th budget work session, and you guys unanimously decided we didn't need a 5th. So because of that, if there's any changes, I would recommend the 2 you asked about, you know, small items. So I would recommend passing it, and then you can always do a budget adjustment.
Okay. And I thought these were taken out when we had that last meeting, but then when I reviewed what we actually were given in the packet, it was like, oh, I think there's something there.
The two items that Kenny Dale brought up were the demo on the fire station.
Right.
When I look back through my notes on that, it was discussed, Robert had used the word demo, but it's really a relocation. And once he explained to you guys that it was a relocation, it would be for like moving James's IT equipment that's there. The discussion was, y'all seemed good with it. So I think that was a confusion. So if you want me to change the word from demo to relocation, you know, that $10,000 is in there if there's something needed.
That might be better verbiage than.
Right, so that was one of those. And the other one was the cabinets at Rolling Hills. And I talked to Seth about it, and he recalled what I recalled. I think you asked him which would you
was
pick
the most
between the
important?
two, and he told you, but nobody told me to take it out, so
Okay.
I left it in.
And
So-
I apologize for that, because I thought we were on the page to take
Right,
it
so
out.
yeah, I didn't understand. I knew that was a discussion. If you were gonna cut something, you know, is it either or? Is there another item that,
There's a couple things, so I'd rather
Okay.
us talk about it and then bring it to the council if that's possible.
okay. So yeah, if you guys pass it tonight, we can circle back on those items, you know, and if there's something, you know, that we want to change or do a budget adjustment on, that's not a problem.
Okay, thank you, that's all I have.
Kenny Dale?
Bill, one quick thing, you heard anything from the railroad company on the lease?
So I emailed him I emailed the third-party engineering company and asked if they needed anything from us. He said no, that it's in internal discussions with CSX at this time. I haven't, that was probably Wednesday or Thursday, somewhere in that time frame. And I have not, and CSX, their engineering groups copied on that email. I have not gotten any follow-up with them, so I guess they're in, you know, in internal discussions about the project.
That's all of that, right?
Kevin?
All right, anything.
Alan?
Yeah, I've got a question about some of the street lighting that Bill mentioned. You said that there was several lights out, but we hadn't taken the streets so that we had not maintained the lights, correct?
We have never maintained any of those lights in that subdivision. There are 5 that they are requesting the city take over the monthly payment that are on streets that we have not adopted for maintenance.
Okay, is that this Waterstone neighborhood that this is in here?
Yeah, the main road coming in and the road to the right were part of Phase 1 and Phase 2. And those two areas have not been adopted. I'm assuming back in that time, what was not completed was probably the wearing course was not put on. If there was any repairs that needed to be made to the pavement, guttering, whatever, whatever was in, I know there was a punch list, or was a punch list from some of the letters. So those repairs were not made.
On this document that we have from the person that sent the request, she says that the HOA became inactive and stopped paying the bill. That's why the lights are not working.
That's the way I understand it. The HOA was paying the monthly usage bill for the street
Correct.
lights and quit paying it, yeah.
That's all I have.
Ernest?
Just a follow-up on what Alan is saying concerning the lights. I just want the council, I know Mayor already knows this, but there's a recommendation coming from the planning and zoning that will be coming to you all real soon concerning the street lights. So maybe we can, I know it's been an issue we've been dealing with, but maybe it will help us to address this issue and we can move forward with what we do from here on in. Should be coming to the council before long. It was passed at the last planning and zoning meeting, and the recommendation was it would be coming to the council very soon.
Yeah, it was just discussed, it wasn't passed.
Discuss, and we, of course, we have a follow-up on that, and then it'll be coming. We're trying to address that issue as well.
So Bill, on Waterstone, have we, as a city, accepted any of the streets in Waterstone?
Yeah, what would be Phase 3 through 5, so that's, if you come in on the main road, I don't know exactly how far, 2 lots before where there's a T, everything to the right over there, I think it's some roads are like Leonard's Court, Manners Way, all of that we have accepted,
So
yes.
Phase 3 through 5, we've accepted the street.
Just 1 through 2, we have not.
That's all I have, yeah, that's all I have, John, thanks.
We have a family, as many of us know in here, that have experienced a loss in their family. It's Chief Kendrick's father-in-law, Davy Horton's husband, passed on Sunday. So if you would, so open us up and remember him in your prayers.
Let's pray. Father God, we come to you now and just ask you to touch the family of Ron Horton, all of his loved ones grieving his loss, and community that knew them grieving his loss. We just ask that you be with them through this difficult time, Father, and we ask that you lead, guide, and direct our thoughts as we move forward with our actions for the city. We thank you for your love, and we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, the first item I have on the agenda is the approval of the agenda that we have before you.
I'll make a motion for approval of the agenda.
Got a motion?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now we need to approve the minutes and dispense them from our work sessions, budget work session, and regular scheduled council meeting on August 19th. Do I hear a motion to approve and dispense?
I'll make a motion.
A second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have a proclamation stating September 2024 as Suicide Prevention Month. It's on the agenda. I hear we make that motion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. 2024 September Suicide Prevention Month. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ordinance 2024-11 this is one that I'll need unanimous consent on. It's the 2025 Severe Weather Preparedness Tax Holiday.
I move for unanimous consent.
Got a motion for unanimous consent?
Second.
And a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now I need to move a motion to adopt.
I'll move to adopt.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Kelly is on the agenda with our FY25 budget. We've had several work sessions. Kelly's put in a lot of work, and I want to specifically say thank you to the council. I know this was a little different layout and look at the budget, but I feel like it was done in an effort for you guys to see a little more of what goes into the process. You got to meet with every one of our department heads, and that seemed like it worked out good. We broke them up and had several work sessions, so I'm thankful for you guys being willing to spend the time to help come up with something that could be beneficial to the city. And I think we have a good budget. And this budget is something that we can amend and add to, take away, whatever. as time goes on, it is what they call a living document, so it can be dealt with accordingly. So, any other discussion on that? Kelly, you got any comments to say? Thank you for all your hard work with that.
It was a great group effort, definitely. All the departments put in a lot of time.
If the council wants to adopt that, it's on the agenda.
I make the motion to adopt.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. Kelly mentioned this, but this does have a nice COLA for the employees. It has a longevity pay that's structured for the employees that will be handed out in the month of December, starting this December. And that's something that can live on. Or if you see fit to cut that, the council just makes a motion to stop longevity pay. So that's how simple that can work. That's in the books, and thank you for considering that. Something I brought to you. I've heard, Calvin, you talked about it many times about, how can we help these employees? How can we retain employees? We've heard the chief talking, and every department out here should benefit, and our employees should benefit. And maybe we'll be able to have strong retention over the years to come. Next item on the agenda is Resolution 2024-44. Is intersection improvements at I-65 and State Route 25 at the 238. I'm sorry, the 228 exit. Do I hear a motion?
Mayor, I have a question about this. Do we know how much the city is responsible for? Responsibility of this will be?
Yeah, it's the same, this is just a re-execution of the existing agreement. So you've already, that was in the 24 budget, and then the proposed, additional to that is also in the 25 budget. It's in your 25 budget for what we're responsible for.
This is us preparing and applying for that trip too. Project.
Mayor, I so move that we move on.
Got a motion that we adopt that?
I second.
Motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This portion of our agenda is a public hearing, and this is ordinance 2024-07. This is a piece of property rezoning request. Is Eric Strickland in here? It's property located 14980 Highway 25 Calera. You're asking to go from E1 to A1, correct?
Yes.
This is property from Highway 25.
Yes.
Correct. At this time, it is a public hearing. Is there anybody in the crowd that has any comments? Eric, would you want to come up and say anything, or anybody for or against? This is a public hearing.
I mean, this, what we did in zoning, we're just trying to get from E1 to A1. We had the exception put in for the mobile homes, with no mobile homes, so that's.
And we determined that would be tied to the property, correct? So, does council have any questions for zoning change from E1 to A1?
What you gonna do with the property? What's
Just
your
build a
plan?
home, you just build a home.
One?
Yes, sir, one home and have a barn and garden, that's it.
There are a couple of these on here that are real similar to these next two.
So, Mayor, we do have documentation that there will be no trailer on the property.
It's in.
it's a part of this ordinance and it will stay tied to the property. It wouldn't matter if they sold it, or either one of them sold the property, any given time it's tied to the property. Again, through this ordinance. Any other discussion from the council? If not, I need a motion for unanimous consent.
I'll move for unanimous consent.
I second.
Got a motion and a second, for unanimous consent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. Now, if you so move, I need a motion.
I move.
Got a motion,
Second.
motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next one is an adjacent parcel that's on your agenda. This is a public hearing at this time. Ordinance 2024-08 is Jerry Payne. And Jerry, I see you out in the crowd here. Is there anything you'd like to say? Come forward. This property is 14740. It's on Highway 25.
Yes, sir.
I think you call that community McMahon,
Across the road from.
right across
Yes.
the road.
Now, the same thing, I'm gonna be able to build a new home there, and, you know, the way it was before with the E1, it had to be 2,400 square feet. We're doing 2,000. I'm not getting any younger, so that was a reason for it. And that's what it was thought to have been to start with when Mr. Clayton was A1, so now, we appreciate the planning board and appreciate the council.
It'll be the same attachment.
Yeah, no mobile homes. I got way too many relatives for that. Yeah, no, sir.
We want the property to be real fitting with what's out there. Some very nice homes out there. So.
Everybody gonna be proud of it.
Any discussion from this council?
Did also, Mayor, to the council, that from the planning zoning side, that was neighbors from the area that had no problem with that, as long as it didn't occupy mobile homes.
That's correct. With that all being said, the public hearing is closed, and I need a motion to unanimous consent.
I make a motion for unanimous consent.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise, and I need a motion to adopt.
I make a motion to adopt.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Seems like I've seen this name before on here. We have a public hearing at this time pertaining to Waterford LLC. And it's request for Highway 70, Waterford PUD North, part of the original Waterford subdivision. I see John Reamer in the crowd here. You've got a master plan approval that's before this council at this time. Have you put that second entrance in yet, sir?
No.
The council have any comments?
Yes, so what's the plan on the second entry?
Well, I think we've beat this one pretty hard, but if we can get this passed, or get the second entrance started, I will be able to get it done. As you remember, in 2019, I put up a bond for the second entrance and brought some record plats in that the city council would not approve the final plat, so I had to pull the bond for financial reasons. But this will get us moving to where I can get the second entrance back either under construction or bonded, depends on the timing of closing some lots. that are under contract to Adams Homes. So it will get us moving, just to answer your question.
I'm gonna ask a question. So are you saying get it moving if you sell the lots? Is that what you're saying?
Well, I cannot record a map until the turn lane is either bonded or built. So I will get to work on bonding or building, which will solve this problem and get us going on the turn lane.
I guess I'm confused, and I apologize. But my confusion is, you've been working on this for many years, is that right? I mean, I know that the mayor is asking for a turn lane or a second entrance for years. Is that true, Mayor?
It's been the entire time I've been in office.
Okay,
I've
so,
been told we were moving in the direction, and I've even, at one point in time, which I was very disappointed, at one point in time, the city had money on hand, sureties on hand, and they came and pulled them. At some reason they pulled them, I don't know, if we've been told the entire reason why they pulled them, but Butch, your office told me I had to give the money back to them because they requested his money, given back, which I screamed and cried like a little baby. No, I don't. I've been promised this second entrance the entire time I've been in office since 2008, and I have fought tooth and nail for the residents in Waterford to get the paving done that was not up to standards, and LaWast came through. Butch, we dealt with LaWast, and they satisfied, through John and their negotiations, they satisfied the entire subdivision's paving request and needs. I mean, we couldn't deliver mail in this neighborhood. The mail cart would splash water in the mailbox. It was terrible. So I'm very aware of Waterford LLC, and I'm very aware of you, John. I am the same as I was day one. I'm skeptical. I didn't vote for this in Planning Commission, and now it's on the agenda for this council. So this council needs to look at the public, look at the residents of Waterford straight in the face and make a decision of how to deal with this request. I've been unsuccessful. The city's been unable to get a second entrance, and we've been told, oh yes, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. I would hate to do anything with this request tonight. There's no formal construction entrance for you to build any of these other homes. You heard it tonight about the construction entrance in an Emerald Ridge subdivision. That's a subdivision that's sandwiched between two ongoing developments. We're having a hard time taking care of and protecting our streets, curbs, water inlets. It is backwards. We shouldn't have to be working like that.
Well, as far as the construction entrance, right this minute, there's not a good way to solve that. And as Butch said, it's not a reason for denial, but I've talked with Westervelt, and they are hesitant to do anything because of the liability coming across their land. It may be that I end up buying that right away and improving it, or that road along with some other land at some point, and I have a meeting with them later in the month. So,
would you pull this off the table tonight and get that negotiated before you? We want some concrete answers from you.
well, the facts are, we entered an agreement in 2014 that I would not ask for a record plat until the turn lane was in. I have not asked for a turn lane to be put in. I've done what I said. I put up the bond in 2019 and brought 2 record plats down to Tammy and was told that that y'all would not accept those 2 plats, which would have brought me enough money to get the construction done, and there's no point. I just couldn't afford it at the time. So we finally have worked through, Adams Homes is on board with this. I have worked through the divorce part of everything with my wife, had it worked out, and this is, the Homeowners Association president spoke at the Planning and Zoning meeting. Waterford HOA is in favor of it, and this is the only way I see to get it moving forward. I will not ask for a record plat for any additional lots until I have the turn lane in or bonded. And I have never deviated from that.
Butch, is there a way to, I know he's got a lawsuit, negotiated deal, something with Adams, I guess.
That's incorrect. Adams would love to speak on this issue when it gets an opportunity, but there is no settlement with Adams. Adams has a lawsuit as it relates to lots that it previously contracted with Waterford LLC to purchase. Adams has been here at all of the hearings, had a great opportunity to be before you, hear all of the complaints. And this is the first time that Adams has come in support of anything that's been put forth. The main reason that Adams supports this plan is that, one, it adopts the contracts that were previously put in place. There was a PUD that was approved by the city back in 2007. We believe that this is consistent with that, and we also believe that this plan with the 2014 agreement, as it only relates to the north side of the property, requires Mr. Reamer to satisfy all of the complaints of the homeowners, which is the second entrance, prior to anything being done. And so if this, and I'm not talking about the second thing that will come for you at a later date, that's a totally separate proposal, and that's not what I'm here for today. That relates to the property, I guess the Dunsmore subdivision that's below County Road 70. I'm not here, and Adams is not here with a position on that at this point. What we are here for is the north side. And if the north side was to go through and this amended PUD was to be approved, nothing could happen until Mr. Reamer satisfies his obligations to the city to proceed with the second entrance, which we believe will make all of the homeowners happy. We believe it will then allow for the roads to be completed that have not previously been completed, and ultimately the subdivision, and I think you'll hear from the HOA owner, they'll get the funds they need to continue to maintain the neighborhood. And so we believe this specific proposal, in conjunction with the 2014 agreement that puts very strict requirements on on Waterford LLC to develop the subdivision, is a step forward. And while Mr. Reamer and Waterford LLC may take a while to get the money to do so, nothing will happen at the property negative to the homeowners until he satisfies the 2014 agreement. So for that reason, we think this is a step in the right direction. We think it's a necessary step, and we fully support this proposal in contradiction to what we have done in the past and taken previous positions on other proposals put in place, and that includes the proposal that you will look at next on the agenda as it relates to the southern property.
So sir, can I ask you a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Would you be able to front Mr. Reamer the funds to put in the second entrance?
There is, I can't speak as to what negotiations are going on amongst the parties or what specifically Adams would or would not do. What I would say is that until an amended PUD is put in place such that lots can be built and a contractor or a builder or anyone has any sort of certainty that there can be progress in the neighborhood, no one is going to go and put up that money forward. One of the big predicaments, one of the big issues is that there's not other than the amended PUD, or the PUD that was in place back in 2007, 2008 period of time, there's nothing for any entities to look at and say, okay, if we were to put up the money, or if we were to go and put the funds, or come to some sort of agreement, we can move forward with confidence that we can enact this plan to make this neighborhood better.
See, our problem is, and I'm just one person here, is that I've been on this council a little over a year, and I have seen Mr. Reamer come time after time about this. But then you step back and look at the history. He has promised to do that second entrance years ago, and it didn't happen. And now here we are again, trying to get that second entrance in, and it still hasn't happened. So my confidence in what Mr. Reamer is saying and what you're saying, and no disrespect to either of you, is that how can we fully be guaranteed? Because the city doesn't have the funds to come back in there and repair the roads if it's damaged during construction. So we don't have the funds to come in there to do a second entrance. And we keep being told it will happen, it will happen. And if it was going to happen, it would have happened in 2019 or 2014, and it hadn't happened.
Well, and respectfully, I think you raise a wonderful question. And the reason that Adams supports this proposal is because this proposal, if agreed upon and approved by the council, protects the city. Mr. Reamer and Waterford LLC have an agreement in place that they cannot go and plat any future lots until the second entrance is put in or has been bonded off, at which time the city would control that money. Now, if Mr. Reamer never comes through and the city approves this amended PUD plan and he never goes forth with the second entrance, he never puts the money up to bond it, he never actually builds it, Mr. Reamer will not be able to plat a single other lot in that neighborhood. He will not be able to make any money on that neighborhood. He will not be able to do anything to damage or further harm the city. And so this, in a lot of ways, is putting the onus on Waterford LLC to go forth and build the second entrance. And so we see this as an opportunity in which the city, by approving this, is actually not saying, as you initially suggested, that he's not going to put forth it. It's giving him the opportunity to do it, and it's only in his camp to do it. And if he doesn't, it's to Waterford LLC's detriment, because Waterford LLC cannot go forth and plat any other properties within Waterford until it does the second entrance. And that's because of that 2014 agreement that y'all have in place, that he said he's going to honor, and he can't get the permitting, et cetera, to go forth with anything else in that neighborhood until that occurs.
Well, he has, like Councilmember Byers just said, he's promised to do this entrance many, many times, and we don't have the confidence. I don't trust him to do what he says he's going to do. He has brought to us his financial issues, his problems for us to solve, and that is not part of our job, is to solve his financial issues, his divorce, and what have you. So he's looking to us to help solve his financial problems, a solution to getting the entrance when it was his responsibility in the first place to do the second entrance. We're not obligated to do this or that in order for him to do the second entrance, because he's supposed to do that anyway.
Well, and what I would say to that, again, I'm not here on behalf of Waterford LLC, I'm here on behalf of Adams Homes, but what is before the city council tonight is to approve a PUD plan. A PUD plan is simply changing the nature of what can go into this development. It's not about any promises about what he's going to do in the future or not. It is just for the plan of the neighborhood, such that how it's going to be put in place if he proceeds with these promises. There's no promises being made as part of the request for a PUD plan. And I would certainly refer to your council to answer any questions as to what the city has to decide and any legal obligations it may have. But I do believe that there is a difference and something to be distinguished between Mr. Reamer and the city making some sort of promise or agreement to do something in the future, and the city council considering a PUD plan that's before them, that's in compliance with, gone through a number of iterations such that it's in compliance with a bunch of different factors and takes into effect what the current state of the property is, what the property is going to be developed for its best use in the future, and the contractual obligations that Mr. Reamer's previously entered into with Adams and the prior PUD plans that are in existence for this property.
But he can't move forward with it anyway, so we look forward to him doing the second entrance, and then we will approve this. I'm speaking for myself, so.
The only thing I would say on behalf of that is that that's not, and obviously the city council members can vote however they may, or however they may wish, but Adam certainly believes that the issue before you tonight is one as to whether or not the plan that's put in front of you tonight is something that there is whether or not the plan itself is problematic. And we believe in working in conjunction with the city, working in conjunction with Waterford LLC, working with the homeowners. Nothing about the plan in and of itself is objectionable. Whether Waterford LLC goes out and puts in the second entrance or not is really a separate issue between Waterford LLC and because Waterford LLC has to go and put in that second entrance before it can do anything else. So the city's already protected itself. And this is a separate and wholly different issue that is simply asking the city council to say, are you okay with this plan if he later performs what he has said he has to do prior to any other lots being platted?
I'd like to ask our attorney a question. Mr. B?
Yes.
So, if this master plan was approved tonight, and the lots that he's got, when he sells those lots, can that money go straight into escrow for that second entry?
Not in my judgment, not under the present arrangement. I think you've either got to approve it or reject it, or put condition on it, a condition on it that no lot would be platted or no permits issued, no construction, home construction until the second entrance is provided. But if you do that, you're going to have to send this back for another public hearing because you change it the way it was advertised. But those are your choices.
And Councilmember Cost, just to that point, the restriction, the change that the council has recommended or said that you could do is already in place through the 2014 agreement. So all that's being looked at tonight is would you approve the amended PUD such that when those conditions are satisfied, then you can go and build and construct homes to fill out the rest of the neighborhood in accordance with this amended PUD.
So, as far as with the legal advice?
Well, it seems to me that we're saying it's conditioned, but it's not conditioned as a part of your approval. It's not tied to the actual PUD itself. I think that if that condition could be imposed, you could do that by amendment, but I don't think you'd have to go back to the planning commission with it. If you propose an amendment to put a condition on it, that whatever criteria you want to put on it, but you'd have to send it back and re-advertise it and have a hearing.
Well, I guess one of the direct question that I'm asking is, according to what he just addressed us, for what we are here to do tonight, based on just, do we accept not having anything to do with the entry of the two for this subdivision right now? Have you guys looked over this before now?
Not in detail. We've looked at it, but not in detail.
Councilman Morgan, we had a separate council who's been at the last several meetings. The 2014 agreement is right here, and what he just proposed is what Waterford LLC previously signed back on July 7th of 2014, that prior to any other lots in Waterford being platted, any other further construction ongoing of building up homes, the second entrance had to be put in place. And so legal counsel back in 2014 put that in place. That right here, you know, if he was to try to, you know, build homes or do something, the city would have an immediate opportunity to go and try and enjoin him from doing that. And he said he's not going to try to do that. What he's simply asking is, or what Waterford is asking, is to put the amended PUD in place so that when the construction of the second entrance goes in place, there is a plan for development for homes to go up that are in conjunction with what the overall neighborhood will look like. And the HOA, and I think other members are here who've heard this issue extensively and are in approval with this plan for what the neighborhood would look like after he abides by this agreement and puts in the second entrance. And I'm happy to pass this around.
I think I already had it.
If I might add, Mayor and Councilman Martin, the problem is this PUD is not specifically tied to that. It's a separate obligation. And it may be that you're asking nothing further than that. But the question is whether or not this particular PUD itself is limited to that, which would have to be conditional. And then you'd have to send it back for another. You would have to put that condition on it, that this PUD is approved, but this PUD, the question is whether or not you want this PUD to be developed without a second entrance or not.
Where's the funding plan for the second entrance? Where is it? The funding plan for the second entrance?
Well, as we've discussed, the problem is I can't sell lots, I can't go to the bank, nobody's willing to do anything without a master plan approval. And that's kind of where my hands are tied. Kenny, I appreciate the thought, but I don't need to take money from the sale of lots. I can get the money, if the master plan is approved, I can get the money to put the turn lane in or bond it. And that will happen relatively soon.
How long will it take you to get that letter to us?
I don't know. Part of it depends on sale of lots in Adams, and there's some other lots that are ready to sell. I may have enough to bridge the gap that I don't need to go to the bank if Adams were closed. But it's going to take a couple months to get the DOT to approve us entering the right-of-way, the DOT, the state right-of-way. So nothing's going to happen construction-wise until the DOT restamps plans. They approved it previously.
So, this master plan will approve it. I'm hearing our attorney say that we could amend it to amend this master plan tonight. So when a sale of these lots are sold, then that money would go into escrow automatically, or he bond that money out, one of the two.
I didn't say it exactly that way, but what I'm saying is I think you could condition any approval or development on that being accomplished. And I've just been handed the minutes from the planning commission, and it says after, this is from when this was considered at the planning commission, it says after further public comments were received, Commissioner Edwards made a motion to approve the master plan for Waterford subdivision with the agreement from developer John Raymond that the July 7, 2014 signed agreement that he can't further develop is enforced. And what I'm saying is, REMA also agreed to construction interest with approval from the landowner, Westerfeld Company, INC. What I'm saying is that that's not in, if you approve the master plan, that's not a part of it, the way it is now. Now, I don't make the decision about how you ought to do it or what you ought to do. If that condition's not in there, and you have the power, in my judgment, our judgment, to put that condition on it. just like that. And that no lots would be platted or approved or sold or permitted until that second entrance was provided. They'd have the master plan approved, but it'd be subject to that condition. But you can't do that, and Mr. Redmond can't leave here tonight with a master plan approved. You'd have to come back for another hearing. You have to get public notice again, just like you did for this one, because that's an amendment to your zoning ordinance. And then you can consider it at that time and tie all this that was said to the planning commission, tie all that in and make it a part of the PUD approval.
Well, I don't need to make the money.
Yeah,
from
excuse me,
the-
the master plan, excuse me.
I don't need to make the money from a sale necessarily going in an escrow. I can bond it, if I can get master plan approved, I will get the money to bond and start the second entrance.
Wasn't there something that said it had to be cash for
Yeah, sure it is.
It's the 2014 is 150% of the bid in a cash surety bond. And I plan, guys, I understand exactly what the 2014 agreement is. And I plan on living by it. I've never asked for any deviation from that. It's taken a while, I agree. But it should have happened in 19, in my opinion. But it didn't, and here we are today.
The monies that the sureties are based on is, you talked about the estimates of the cost. Is that current cost or is that 2014 cost?
That'll be today. I'll get a 24 cost.
Okay.
I wish it was 14 cost.
You know, from listening to what has been said, and I get what is taking place, and even from the advice of our own attorney, he's saying that what we're voting on tonight have nothing to do with the turning lanes and all of that. That language is to come later. We can add that in before we vote on approving the final plan.
I think the condition needs to be
Exactly.
added.
Right.
Right. And
Well, that's what he said. He said we can come back and add.
Would that need to be sent back to planning commission notes of
Well, that's-
PUD with conditions?
He said, the attorney said we don't have to.
You don't have to go back to the planning commission, but you have to add, you can't approve this and then go back. You need to
Approve first.
approve this condition, put a condition on it, and then you have to send it back, re-advertise it, then decide whether or not you're going to approve it with a condition on it.
But look, I'm not asking for any conditions. I'm not asking for the money to be put in escrow.
You're conflating.
Hey, may I just say this, quickly, Ms. Alves, that was my concern. The recommendation that came from the planning, the two recommendations that came from the planning zoning to the council evidently did not follow, those recommendations didn't follow this ordinance, right? Kevin?
I'm also confused about this because we're at the last hearing, several other of the items have been approved tonight were approved with the conditions. And so I struggle to understand the distinction now being made from the prior rezonings that were just made with the conditions approved by the Planning and Zoning Commission. I would let Mr. Reamer speak on this, but I don't think he opposes what was previously put in place at the Planning and Zoning with the conditions and approved and put up before the city council for tonight.
So those two recommendations evidently was not before us tonight. And just a follow-up on that also, one of the recommendations was that you got approval from Westerville to do that construction. How would that be addressed? How are you going to address that?
It was not conditioned on approval. It was discussed with Westerville. possibility of a construction entrance from there.
Well, I misunderstood that, because I believe it was asking that was approved, something was approved, it wasn't that to bring that, to use that instead of using the roads for construction. I think that was, the planning zone was really concerned that those roads were not used. Yes, found another route in
But Mayor,
for the construction.
Mayor, wasn't it approved that it would be discussed with Westerville? Huh? Yeah. It was not, had to have approval from Westerville. It was that we would have discussions with Westerville, which I have started.
I suggested that we have a construction entrance, and you left the meeting and said you were going to talk to Westerville.
And I did.
So
I
that
have
needs to be,
several times.
that needs to be, a construction entrance for that construction needs to be part of what we're considering.
Yes.
Yeah, right now, the way with the land that I have, it can't happen without going through Westerville. It can't. There was a long discussion at planning and zoning, and the resolution was to discuss with Westerville, not get approval from Westerville, because that may or may not happen.
So construction entrance details are sketchy, correct?
They are unknown, yes, ma'am.
Oh,
But as Butch has said, I don't think that's a reason to turn down a master plan.
The other aspect on the construction entrance is that doesn't even come into effect until after the second entrance was to be put in place, because you cannot go and construct or build other homes under the 2014 agreement until the second entrance is approved. And so, Adams respectfully, its position is that the 2014 agreement, which was tied in as a condition that I believe Waterford LLC has said that it's happy to accept and continue to abide by, such that this amended PUD is passed, and then, any further construction, permitting, entrances, anything that happens after the fact only occurs after the second entrance is put in place, and would still be required to comply with all of the city ordinances that are in effect, all of the city permitting, and work with the city on all of the different measures they have in place to protect and ensure that any construction that occurs is being done in a manner that is consistent with the city's ordinances and laws.
Come forward.
Y'all know who I am. I'm Lydia Godwin. We've talked about this before. I'm just going to remind y'all of some of the things that I've researched of why this shouldn't be passed. If you look up the International Fire Code that was approved last year, put into place last year, the entrances are too close. You're supposed to take the measurement from one corner to the other corner and do 1/2. The math for that comes to 3,640. The current measurement from the middle of the entrance to the middle of the proposed entrance is 2,666 feet. It's too short. It doesn't meet the fire code. We want to do things right. I know y'all want to do things right. I've been at the meetings. I've watched each and every one of you ask all the questions that I want to ask, that other citizens want asked. I've heard your comments to know that you've also done the research. But these are things that this shouldn't go forward, even if it is, okay, well, he can change it. It should have been changed. This was mentioned last year. Before he brought it forward again, this was mentioned, that it's no longer within fire code for it to be that close. It might have been under the previous fire code, but it's not anymore. And the measurement factors that I used was I used the GIS, the Shelby County Maps GIS website that is the same one that I believe the city uses. And also, if you go to that website, you can find that the estate lots that are to the, if you're looking at Waterford at the entrance, the estate lots that are to the right, that if you click on not the first parcel to the right of the entrance, but the second one, that would cover the top corner of the first estate lot, the full second estate lot, and then part of the third estate lot, that it marks that it's owned by McCullough Holdings LLC. And also, when the Dunsmore public notice was put out, guess what? That company was notified by Calera that, hey, this subdivision is about, this property that's on up to your property line is about to have some development. So I know that the city knows of that. They have to, because a public notice was sent out to this individual that, or company that owns that parcel. And maybe Mr. Reamer has some information on that parcel, but I mentioned that last year, that it seemed like there were some parcels that were not owned by him. I looked again today. They paid the taxes for last year, so it appears that they own it. That's what the GIS site says, and maybe it's completely wrong, but I think that this is worth some consideration, and maybe not having a vote tonight to look into these specific things that, you know, it's great that we have an agreement in place, but we need to do things like each and every one of you have said about other things that have come before you, that what you're looking to do for the citizens of Calera is to make sure that we are doing it right. We have a new fire code, and it needs to be done right. Do I want a second entrance? Yes. Just like you, I would have loved to drive through that second entrance today and come out. Where it's currently proposed is not only against the fire code, but if you go and look at it, it would be unsafe. I think that if maybe some of the police officers went out there and sat for a while, they would see that that's a bit of a blind spot, and if you were pulling out, you could have additional issues that we've seen happen at other places where there's full visibility right there at the first entrance. And it just is worth looking at again, instead of pushing through and saying, oh yeah, this looks great. It does look great, I will admit. The colors are beautiful, the lines are gorgeous. Like, you know, it would be great if this had been put in place in 2019. Would have been great, but guess what? It wasn't. It doesn't meet fire code, and I think that every one of you should think about us, that it needs to be up to code. And I don't know what else I could ask of y'all except to look at it again, pull it back, and also to ask that if you look at the zoning ordinances, it says that part of the application requires that a developer have a general indication of how the staging process is to proceed, including an estimated date when construction of the PUD will begin. If it's supposed to be staged, he wanted to throw out 15 years. 15 years is a long time. And y'all each have talked about how long this back and forth has gone on. And 15 years without any kind of, okay, well, we're gonna start with this stage, then we're gonna have that one, and then we're gonna have that one, and then we're gonna have that one. At least having some indication for Waterford, those who live there, to know, okay, this is what's gonna be happening over the next 15 years, and this is how it's going to proceed. It would be great to have some kind of understanding. And in addition, I 100% agree that we need a construction road, and that needs to be an amendment that's made that is then thrown back to be able to be voted on, because it's not something that, it's ridiculous that we have weight limits that we've talked about, and Waterford's roads have the weight limits. We have a lovely sign at the entrance. We already have the weight limits, but it's kind of like, construction road. There's land on the side. I know that he'd have to put in work into it to have a construction road go all the way around the side, but if you look at it, yeah, it wouldn't be a direct shot. You wouldn't win any prizes for A to B, geometry, physics, whatever, you know, math. You wouldn't have the fastest route, but you could form a route around the outside, and then maybe put into your plan staging for, we're gonna have this route for construction, and we're gonna start here, go here, here, and here. It just is something to think about.
If I may just address one or two things, I think that some of the complaints that were just made were as it relates to initial submission by Waterford, as it related to the north and the south properties. There is a separate submission for the south property, but that's not what's before you right now. And frankly, Adams has been opposed to those. This is solely as it relates to the north property. On the north property itself, I understand that Chris is no longer here, and so I would defer to y'all, but I believe the city of Calera has looked extensively to see whether or not this is in compliance with the fire regulations. It's been said at multiple different planning and zoning hearings after having engineers look at this, that it is in compliance. And so that's not an issue. And then separately, you know, from a land rights use and what's being requested of the city council today, seeking for a landowner to do something outside of simply asking to use its property for its intended use, as the city's previously approved, goes well beyond the pale and the scope of what's before the city council tonight. I think that Waterford LLC is, certainly has its responsibilities and it has its obligations that it's set out in its agreement, but to deny a amended PUD that in and of itself uses the land for its intended use is a taking of property from an owner for the ability to use the land as it's conveyed in its currently zoning. And basically the complaints are such that they would not allow for a developer or a contractor or anyone who wants to use this land to be able to do anything with it. And what's in front of you tonight is simply the most well thought out plan that complies with a bunch of different factors, that has restrictions in place that take in all of these considerations and don't occur until Waterford LLC performs its responsibilities. But at that time in which it puts in a second entrance that complies with fire marshal's code and complies with building regulations in the Alabama Department of Transportation on how you put in entrances on county roads, then the land could be used in its intended effect. And so this is the initial step one. There are a number of different mechanisms in which the city can protect these continued interests that we all believe are very important in the future. But the request of the city tonight by Waterford LLC is simply to approve an amended PUD that allows for this land to be used in the future once these other requirements are taken care of for its desired mechanism. Thank you.
My last question to you would be this. If our attorney is suggesting to us that we put that into the amendment, would that throw you off that far for us to put this in, to bring it back for a vote on it? Would that throw everything that far off track?
I think it's Mr. Reamer and Waterford LLC has to ultimately say, but I think that Mr. Reamer's position has been on the record numerous times that he would like for the amended PUD to go into place, and he has no problems with some sort of agreement that the 2014 agreement that he completes the second entrance be attached to that. And so if you need to amend it such that that's attached to it, so be it. I think that the agreement's pretty clear that he can't develop any lots north of Highway 70 until the second entrance is put in, so I don't think it's really necessary to add that in, but as the bolts and suspenders you want to do so, I don't think Waterford LLC has any objection to that. Of course, they're going to have to speak to that themselves. But that's a separate question than, what's
right before us. Mr. Reamer, when you came the last time before us, and some of these questions, the same thing, if I'm not mistaken, was asked before then. And it was suggested to you by the mayor to withdraw that and for you to go back and get this information put in. Did you do everything that the council asked you to do?
Yes, sir, I believe that's it.
If I'm not mistaken, the things that was asked by this council for him to do, is what he's talking about and what is referred to now. Now, the second entry was something totally different than what we're dealing with now. But everything that this man came before us the last time that we asked for him to do, is all I'm talking about now, was done. And I have to speak what is right, and I have to stand on what is true. He did what we asked him to do. Now, if we keep moving the goalpost every time he come in here, it's a shame on us. And that's all I have to say about this.
Can I speak on that, one second, please? All right, what Mr. Calvin was just saying, that was kind of what I was sitting back there actually thinking in my head, you know, and I made my stance with you guys. I'm Terrell White, I'm the president of Watford. And I made my stance with this mayor, you know, I've not said negate anything that he's been asked to do. But as Mr. Calvin said, the meeting we came to, y'all gave him a layout of what you wanted. Said, come back with this. We have no problem going forward. He did do those things. But as I'm sitting here listening, what we keep going back to other members and different stuff like that is, a lot of people keep going back to the past. And I get it. He made a bad name for himself years ago. I wasn't there when it happened. All I'm there to do is try to make Watford a better place, changing going forward. And as I stated in the last meeting, this doesn't just affect this man. I could care less if it affected this man, financial or whatever. I'm here personally to fight for the financial well-being of Watford, because originally when this plan was laid out, these homes was in this plan, not talking about Carl Street, whatever. The other 400-something homes is in Waterford to be built. Those were in the plan of the finances for Waterford to do improvements over the years as things break down, for upgrades in the neighborhood as things need to be done. And as we've seen in the past around the city, I don't like to put any other boards down, but a lot of other boards left a lot of things neglected. So I came on 6 years ago, and therefore, since I've been on, we have been pounding after issue after issue after issue, fixing things left and right that has cost thousands and thousands of dollars. All right? Yes, we went after people, got back funds. We used that to fix more stuff. We added things in Waterford that people wanted to have there. We started doing events and stuff, trying to make it more lively for people to step up and do what they need to do right. So again, this is a financial issue with Waterford. Waterford has a lot of repairs and stuff that need to be done still. If we can get those other homes, this would help Waterford to continue to progress in the direction we want to go. Like I said, again, it's nothing about him. I could care less about any of that. I want what's best for Waterford to move forward. Everybody in Waterford don't like me. I know this. Everybody don't hate me either. I mean, obviously 6 years in running, and it is by vote, of course. So, but again, I just want us to come to some kind of agreement together, meet in the middle. Let's blank out our mind of 15, 20 years ago, whatever was there. I mean, we could go there in the past of 20 years ago. We can go back and say what Donald Trump did for women 20 years ago. We can go back to Kamala Harris and say what she used to be 20 years ago. That don't make the person who they are today. People can change. Things can change. And at this point, I feel like we need to say, let's stop the bickering with this. Let's be adults. Let's figure out what we need to be. Let's come there and let it be something that everybody agrees on, and just stop going back to what happened here, what happened here, what happened here. I mean, we don't need to do that. I mean, it's putting us at a dead end by going back every single time. And we can bring stats up of this and this and this. Well, in reality, when the subdivision was put in, it had to be approved for the interest to be here, the second interest to be here. Whether something changed a year ago as far as those codes, or fire codes and all that kind of stuff, to me that shouldn't affect what was already in existence of planning at that time. I mean, we can change a lot of different things as planning at that time. Even the houses have changed as far as what y'all want plot sizes to be now. I mean, so if we go back, so we're gonna pick up every house and say, well, we decided we're not gonna do this now. So all of these houses gotta be picked up and moved over to be 60-foot lots, or 80-foot lots, or whatever. So again, it's a lot of that is just, we gotta find a happy medium and come together and work out and figure out what it is and not be another 20 years down the road with Waterford still sitting as a dead stick of not building. And I'm looking around at all these new subdivisions, all these old subdivisions, popping up new houses left and right, but we can't go nowhere. We still stuck. I mean, it's a bad point right now.
So Tammy, can you refresh, I'm trying to bond it on here, what stipulations did the zoning board, or conditions did the zoning board put on this particular PUD?
On the PUD?
What, yes, so when you came.
They didn't put anything on the PUD, because once a PUD is
No, I
zoning,
mean,
the
what
master
the zoning-
plan,
Yes. and I-
they approved it with the concession that John Reamer understood that the 2014 agreement was in place.
Okay, I can't find it on the pad. Can you tell us the stipulations?
That was it, that he understood that that was in place, that it was enforced.
The
I think what she's
2014
asking and
Yeah.
what you posted, I think
Oh,
she's asking where
well,
is it at in there?
Yeah, I didn't include it in what it was posted because Grace said it goes with it. It was already standing of what the agreement was he made in 2014. So,
The way it's written is kind of redundant to making me agree again to the 2014 agreement.
That's the copy up. It's,
State your name, please.
Jennifer Flournoy. Hi. Y'all already know the reason why we're here for this whole situation. And it is because of the past. It is because of what he said right now, in this chamber right now. He has not done what you all asked him to do last year. You asked him to do the second entrance. And it is because he was the original developer, am I right? Am I right? This is what's going on with all these subdivisions that are popping up. They're not following through. They're not, the one I live in, we don't have any amenities because they decided not to do them. Who are we supposed to go to now to say, hey, where are our amenities that we were supposed to get? This is what's going to happen if you keep allowing this to happen. You all have say so. Yeah, I went to the planning commission. Yeah, they saw it years ago. Times have changed. The roads have changed. Environments have changed. People have changed. But the thing is, we already know he still has not done anything he said he was going to do other than tell you. Is any of that in writing? He said he still doesn't have the money until he sells the lots to get the money to put the second interest in. He could sell those lots right now. Did y'all know that? He could sell those right now, get the money, bond it, and put that second interest in before that construction is done. Like it's going to have to be anyway, because those people are going to have another way in and out of their subdivision. Y'all don't read, understand, YouTube it. How many of those roads do we do the city take care of, Bill, in Waterford? All of them? All of them? So right now, we are on the hook if anything happens, regardless if he does anything. He could sell those to Adams right now. Adams, you can make a deal with Adams and put that second interest in. Or you can even go to the state and have them put that second interest in with a traffic sign. You make him sell them. Make him sell all that land. You can make him do that. Because at the end of the day, he's not going to follow through with it. Because if he did, he would have had it in writing. He comes here every time and he's talking. I don't see anything with a date, an amount, nothing. Promise, promise, not a guarantee. Promise, promise, not a guarantee. I remember, he's confused because he can't keep up. He's not writing anything and giving it to you all. Y'all at the planning commission, fine. The thing it is, right here is for you all to make that a decision on how we live. We're the citizens. We're the ones that have to go in and out. We're the ones that pay for these houses, pay these property taxes, for these roads, for our police, for our fire department, for our public works, for our sewer system. So make them do what they're supposed to do and put it in writing with a date. Not 15, not 18 months, or if I get a bond, stop listening to this and have it in writing. And that's all I got to say. Because at the end of the day, it's all y'all who make our lives better, worse, or awful.
This may surprise some of you, but and this is the last thing I'll say tonight, but Adams doesn't disagree with anything she said, but the reason that this is the first time that Adams has supported a proposal is because this is the first proposal that allows this neighborhood to be set out, the land to be changed such that it can be used for its intended to use after Mr. Reamer and Waterford LLC do what the city's required of them. Unfortunately, cities cannot control and force people to do things with their property that they don't want to do. They can't do that. There's federal law against there. There's a number of laws. It's eminent domain, it's taking, you name it. There are only certain conditions upon which they can do that. But what we have here before you and what Adams is supporting is a proposal in which the land will be changed, but he cannot use it for its full effect or go and develop additional lots or do anything with his property until he does what the homeowners and everyone else is requesting. And in our opinion, we're in a lawsuit with him. We're not up here hand in hand, there's no agreements, there's no settlement. We're not up here as friends. But we believe this is the best plan for the city, to protect the city, to protect the citizens, and ultimately allow us to be able to purchase homes and build and construct to make the neighbors happy without violating any laws, without asking the city to do or take something of someone else's that it probably really can't do as a matter of law. Thank you.
Butch, on the language, the verbiage, have you got a strong opinion on us moving forward, or?
We were just talking about that. You need to be very careful if you decide to approve it with a condition. The language needs to be crafted carefully to comply with what Mr. Reamer says he's going to do and what you're willing to accept on it with it. And I don't think we can do that tonight. I think you'll need some time to get your ideas about, these are the things, these are the 3 or 4 things that he says that he is willing to do before he sells any lots or permits any houses, and then convert that to some sort of conditional language that would basically approve the master plan subject to those conditions.
But what's the difference in what we have in the 2014 agreement that needs to be modified?
It's not in the master plan.
The 2014 agreement sets out the properties that are in the display. It was drafted by the city and the city attorneys and presented to Mr. Reamer, and it talks specifically about the lots north of Highway 70. And so I struggle to understand what the distinction. It's fine to have him go and reiterate that, but it's just reiterating an agreement that's already in place and crafted by the city such that he can't go and plat any further lots until the second entrance is put in place or it's bonded 150% of the then present agreement.
I think this council is gonna seek our legal opinion from Butch.
And the agreement itself only mentions one map. The one map it mentions covers the village. It does not mention all of those lots. I know because I asked for that map myself from planning and zoning and got a copy of it. So it does not mention all the lots that are on this master plan.
So taking it from this point forward, do we table this, or does he pull this?
Either one of those 2 options, but I think that something needs to be done to give some time to craft the appropriate language, making those limitations, and we should be able to do it. He says he has no problem with it applying to this particular master plan. His argument is, I understand it, I'm not trying to tell you what to do, I'm just telling you what you can do and what you can't do. As I understand it, what he's saying is that you don't really need that in the master plan because I'm already bound to do that. And I'm saying, yes, but that's a separate contract. You don't even know that he'll actually be the owner of this land at the time that the second construction or second entrance is built. You don't know who's going to own it. You don't know whether it's a part of that 2014 contract or not. But you take that language with Mr. Rimmer and Representative Adams say they're willing to do, and say these are the things that we're already bound by, so you don't need it. Stick it in there as a condition on the master plan, and bring it back.
Can we not do something similar to what the planning did and tie approval of the master plan to the 2014 agreement? Guys, we keep dragging this out for months and now years with.
Well, anything you do, John, anything you do to change it that has legal effects, gonna send it back, it has to go back for another public hearing. You're acting in a legislative capacity right now. You're not in an administrative capacity, you're in a legislative capacity, you're amending your zoning ordinance. And you have a whole different set of criteria to go by. But if you want to tie the master plan to the 2014, the specifics, don't just reference it as to an agreement, reference to the specific things that are in there that he said that he would do. And I think you need some time to do that, either on his motion or your own motion. You could table it rather than reject it and start all over again. If you reject it and start all over again, you probably would have to go back to the planning commission. If you condition it, you would not, but you would have to have the public hearing.
Council, do you have an opinion of what to do to move forward from this point?
Well, he's already non-compliant, so I think that any agreement, anything needs to be airtight. We need to be sure what we are agreeing to. So I agree with.
I don't think having too much language is a bad thing.
I don't either.
We need to have our I's dotted and T's crossed. We have dealt with this way too long to keep making any mistake. So, is this something you want to pull?
Sure. If you pull it, it has to be resubmitted, right? Can it be
With the condition.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to table it till we get the correct verbiage from our lawyer.
I second.
Is that the proper way to proceed?
I think that would work, and you get us a copy. I'm sure we've got it in the file, but get us a copy of the 2014 agreement, and we'll need to pull out, and maybe might need some help from your planning people, pull out the details of the things that expect to be done as a condition. And then,
And not to interrupt, but a simple table motion gives you more options also as well, so.
yeah.
We have a motion on the table and a second. All in favor to table this, say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise. That settles that. Butch, please heed the call and get us fixed on the language for that to be heard, then do another public hearing at the next council agenda, on the next council agenda.
ask what date that will be?
What's your next council date?
Can Butch have it by then?
I'm sorry, I didn't get the question.
Will this be at the next council agenda? Does that give us enough time to advertise, or?
Next one's September
My
16th.
question is, do we just advertise it, or do we have to send notices to the property
No, you
owners?
really have to advertise.
Not, notices to the individual property
Now,
owners.
under the code, you have to advertise it. There may be a provision in your ordinance, in addition to that, that puts an additional burden to notify the property
That
owner.
would
I
be
can't address that.
What was under the master plan approval.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we can do the conditions. I think that's the easy part.
Yeah.
The harder part would be whether or not
Yeah.
they
Can we
What
do it for 30?
Brian was saying, we can come up with some conditions and submit it, but then y'all might need some time before that to make sure that we're on the same page. And that, the next council meeting might push that a little tight.
What about the second?
Yeah, that should work.
First meeting in October, we can
That should work.
plan to have this back on the
That
agenda.
should work, yeah.
Next item on the agenda is the public hearing for Waterford LLC, Dunsmore subdivision. Right across the road. We have this property on Highway 70, we referred to it as the south portion of the property, south of 70. Get that pulled up, Kevin.
Yeah, James.
Kevin, is all of our department heads signed off on all this?
I don't have to on a master plan. It's just whatever.
Nobody has to sign off on it. Our marshal, nobody.
You'll do that on preliminary plat when that comes.
All right, who's here on this, to speak on this public hearing?
Well, go ahead, if you're gonna object.
Yeah, back on behalf of Adams Homes, this is the southern proposal of Dunsmore. This has actually already been submitted to the committee previously by Waterford LLC and was denied. It's back before you, I believe, in the same exact form, fashion, and format. Waterford, Adams Homes would object to this under the previous objections it formally raised, and a number of homeowners of the HOA previously raised, because this would allow for a number of homes and whatnot to be developed prior to the second entrance going in, and so therefore consistent with our support of the prior motion, we would oppose this one because this does not protect the citizens and ensure that a second entrance goes in before any other development.
Council have any comments or concerns? Here's the gentleman come forward. Tell us your name, your address. Your name and address.
I'm Mike Phillips. I'm Helen Foster's son. We own the white square 40 acres that this proposed plan surrounds on three sides. I've come for the last 18 months mentioning it. We have an easement across this property that's still not shown on this plat, and the plat plan of development on paragraph 5L under plan, streets and subdivision designs mentions that paragraph 2 of that, no vehicular access will be permitted between the property and any adjacent property except as shown on the master plan or approved by the developer or its assigns. We've had this easement for 50 years almost. We use it continuously and have, and still not shown on there. We control it, there's a gate there, I have a key. We get permission to use use that easement, and people dump on it or break in there and dump on it, we clean it up and maintain it. We've done that for 46 years now. Nothing has changed. So I'm opposed to this until the easement is shown. And I don't want some other easement, some other access. I like what we have. So I don't know what else to do, but we have legal access, legal easement. I've sent y'all all the documentation. I've drawn the maps, approximately where it is. I've shown you pictures, aerial, and everything else. So that's my opposition to it. I'm not opposed to development. I just want my easement.
Thank you for coming to us. Butch, what responsibility or do we have any about that easement? It's clearly not showing on the master plan.
Yeah, and I don't know enough about it to evaluate the easement. Mike says he's got the easement. I don't know if it's in writing. I don't know if it's a prescriptive easement or a usage easement. There's so many questions that
It's deeded. I've sent a copy of the recorded easement. It's dated back in 1978. It's recorded. I can send that to y'all again. But it's a recorded, deeded easement. That's not. Well, that's enough for now, but it is recorded.
I'd like to hear from the proponent of it is why that's not shown on here. It's a recorded easement.
Can you answer that, Don?
I don't have a good answer, but there is a sunset clause in that easement. First of all, I have told Mike I would give him an easement coming off a paved road, which is a whole lot easier than what he has now. And there, at one point on the map, there was an easement shown across that white portion right there. And I have, why it's not here today, I just didn't realize it wasn't there. The engineers messed up. But there's a sunset clause in his easement that says if it isn't used for 2 years, the easement's gone. And from 2000 until sometime around 2015 or 18, there was a lock on the gate, and the key did not have a key. We gave him a key a couple of years ago when he asked for it. But I'm not going to fight with him. I'm going to give him the easement. I've told him that. He keeps coming back and objecting. It'll be on the map, somewhere in that white portion.
Is it our job to see that before we approve?
Well, it would affect the legality of the petition. If there's not, if there's a limitation of ownership, it's not there. Again, I can't tell you whether that easement sunset or whether it hadn't sunset. Probably only a court could tell that. It sounds like to me they might have a dispute.
Sounds like it's been used as, real recently.
There are cases that hold that mere non-use does not amount to an abandonment. So it takes somebody a higher pay grade. It takes a judge somewhere to say whether or not that's a valid easement or not. But it sounds like to me there's a serious question about it.
And Mayor, I think I heard just from between them that they're not agreeing to the same easement. They're talking about, well, we'll give them this one, but not. So I don't even think we have the same area of the easement agreed upon between them. So I think that in itself is a problem.
Mike, if I agree to give you one across that white off that paved road, that's what we've talked about before.
Kevin, I'll ask you a question. How did this turned out that we didn't know about the easement with all the mapping and all that we have.
Not every easement's on our maps. I mean, we're left with what the county gives us information wise. Yeah, a lot of easements are written inside the deed, that doesn't mean they're gonna be recorded on the map.
If it's not recorded and shown on the map, and Mr. Rimmer were to sell his property, then the next owner could deny him access.
Well, if it was not recorded, that's again a complicated question. If you got enough possession of it to raise the question that somebody must have a right to use this road, then you put on a notice as a prospective buyer, you'd have to check and verify whether the validity of that claim. But if it's a recorded easement, it wouldn't necessarily be platted on the county records. I've got an easement into my place, it's not platted. It's not part of the.
It's in the deed.
It's in the deed themselves. And, but it sounds like to me there's a serious question about that easement, but I can't quantify it. Tell you whether it's valid or not, but if it is a valid easement, then there's a problem with the application.
Lydia?
I would ask that y'all consider putting an amendment on this as well to protect future Calera citizens and Dunsmore home and landowners, that after a certain number of homes are built, that the second entrance must be put in for this neighborhood so they don't get caught in the same hook that Waterford's in right now.
That was described in the planning and zoning, correct, Ernest?
Yes, it was.
Was it 150 homes? Is that the number that they agreed? So it's, Lydia, it's dropped dead at 150 homes.
That's still there, but is that still there? Because when that was put in place, he then withdrew it before it came back again. So that was not still in place when he, am I wrong that if he withdrew it, that would no longer be in place still? Because I'm pretty sure on December 18th, when we met, and he withdrew Waterford and Dunsmore that day.
That was the county, not the planning commission. It's already been approved in the planning commission with 150 stipulation of.
And that's what you're going with. Is there any language that needs to be added, Butch, for that?
In the Dunsmore?
Yes, be there. If it's a condition, it needs to be specified.
Bill?
Hello. Bill Davis. There was a couple of things I know we passed in the last zoning ordinance. As far as, I know it's a PUD. I hate that good jangle. One of which was, there was supposed to be similar zoning along the, as far as like when you do zone something, you're supposed to sort of match what the, match. All right, so you're supposed to kind of match what's around it, and I know there's an M1 to the left, and I know this has been a PUD for a while. I don't know if it's been a PUD longer than the M1. Does that fact matter if it's a commercial type use around it? Or in other words, if there's a buffer on the M1 side, does that count towards the PUD side, for instance? Number two is, I know we had a buffer zone, and how deep are those red lots on the left side, Mr. Ray?
There's 70 wide by 120 plus.
Okay. Well, then you got room, but there's supposed to be, what is it, a 20 or 50 foot buffer?
It's something like that.
And so, just wanted to remind everybody that's a part of what the new zoning was prior to this coming up.
There's no M1 zone left. I think we rezoned everything out M1.
To the left of you is an
It's another
M1.
property owner.
Another property owner, not you.
Oh, Jim, is it still, I thought he rezoned his to C.
It's M1.
Okay.
But anyway, I want to remind there is kind of a buffer, and then you got your setbacks after that. So I don't know if there's enough room on there for what you have planned. And then again, I'm curious, if we do have a zoning, if it was put in the ordinance that you have to zone it similar to surrounding areas. I know this has been PUD for a while, but does the master plan count towards that as well? And does it matter if it's commercial?
Yes, but I don't know about the commercial part.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah, but yes, you're all right on that.
Yeah. Okay, just curious. And sorry about the mic. Thank you, Jay. I broke it.
You sing for us?
No.
Sure.
You don't want me to sing?
Really? I should have got you a whole.
For this particular part, one of my main concerns was the infrastructure when he first starts developing and cutting or a construction road. One of my concerns was having a traffic light across the street put in before to alleviate the pressure from Waterford, the residents that are coming out of the one entrance. But then, like the guy from Adams said, this is contingent actually from him doing the second entrance. But you're still gonna have to have some type of light there before he starts construction. Is it in the master plan in this one that's in place? Because I haven't seen it. That would be one of the main concerns. Also, one of the other homeowners that has land there, he asked him for a buffer between his plot of land. And if he actually, because I know he's spoken to him, but he's not here, but one of those things that came up was, did he put a buffer between his actual acreage for these subdivisions, so it's not directly towards on his property line? And at this point, the previous one that he had, I don't know if it's the same one, it showed that he was directly on his property line, right back to his, and he asked for at least a 15 to 20 buffer for those homes, because it's going to be my understanding is it's going to be a fence, and to keep those neighbors from being on his acreage. But that's what I want to know, if it's the infrastructure from the state, if they approve already with the turning lanes and the traffic light to alleviate the traffic once this construction starts going through.
I don't think there's been a traffic light approval at Waterford, not that I know of.
Not Waterford.
Any comments from the council?
Sounded to me like our attorney's suggesting some more language be put in there is kind of what it sounded like to me. I may have misunderstood, but that sounded like his advice to us.
Maybe showing an entrance for the gentleman that has the acreage, he has a question about easement.
There's always a loose end. It seems there's always a loose end if anything's got Waterford tied to it. We need to eliminate that.
I'd like to make a motion that we table it till we get the proper language tabled.
I'll say.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed likewise.
Mayor, if I might, if at some time you could articulate, tell us what your language conditions are, what you'd like to see on this particular one. We would work on crafting that. But he's got to resolve himself the issue of that, the easement.
Tammy, you've got your notes from the planning and zoning meeting that stated the number of houses before a second entrance would be completed. And the number was 150, but Tammy can get get you her notes from that planning and zoning meeting. All right, next item on the agenda is the streetlight request for Waterstone. Bill, do you have any information on that? The streetlights are there and in place, and they have been paid for by the homeowner association up till recently, or?
I don't know how long ago, but the bill was not paid, so Alabama Power cut them off.
It was over a year ago when I got it. It's around a year.
HOA have been willing and paying for that, and then stopped all of a sudden, I guess.
That's my understanding.
So what's the request, what's the council want to do with that?
I think for safety reasons, we need to go ahead and take on these power lock, these street lights that are on the roads that we have adopted.
Which is phase 3 through 5.
Yes.
What about the first two things?
They're not on ours yet, they don't have the seal coat on it, so that's something we're gonna have to go back and look and see how long they've been used and if there's any money that was put up for Waterstone, sorry.
How many lights are in that? It's odd that we'll turn partial.
There's
lights
5,
on.
because it's Waterstone Way and Waterstone Court, I think. There's 5 total that are included in that 2 streets that we haven't adopted.
And that developer's long gone.
Yeah, and there's no surety, there's no line of credit.
There's nothing we have.
No, there's nothing out there.
I'm of the mindset that you can turn the lights on with them all on.
Mayor, in here,
That's even better.
when the new street light, that amendment to the ordinance comes, I mean, it says nothing about adoption. It's just, whenever the final plat's approved.
So that's gonna help.
Yes. And we have tons of streets that are not adopted.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, it'll be the first 2 or 3 that say Waterstone Way. Well, I'll give you the numbers. So the ones that are in the area is not adopted. The one at the main entrance, 103 Waterstone Way, 127 Waterstone Way, 236 Waterstone Court, and 208 Waterstone Court. They're in the area, they're fall in the area of the streets we hadn't adopted.
Since we got the problem we have with the streets, developer left us holding the bag, just like we've been done numerous places. That's the ongoing thing that we continue to have, that we get hit with this council. I think we're gonna have to go ahead on, I'd like to bring it to a motion that we turn all those lights on, and then we'll work our budget out to all go through the zoning to take these roads over that haven't been done by the developer. It continues on. I know we're gonna have to do it, but we're gonna have to do it in our timely manner. We don't have any money in the budget for that this year, but we need to look at these subdivisions that's got thrown on us as a city and go back and let Bill look at the roads and see what kind of condition these roads is in. And the worst condition, the roads is in the worst conditions, and we have to fix them as we go. I'd like to turn these lights on for the citizens of Waterstone.
I second.
Got a motion and a second for turning all the lights on in the subdivision that was previously built by the neighborhood association. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, likewise. Next is a public hearing, ordinance 2024-12. It's amending the code of ordinances for chapter 10, offenses and miscellaneous provisions. You get a copy of all that. in your packet. Anybody here to speak on that? Ordinance 2024-12? Anything from the council? This is a public hearing, so to move forward, I do need unanimous consent.
I move for unanimous consent.
I second.
Got a motion and a second, unanimous consent. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I need the motion to adopt.
I so move.
Second. Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 2024-45 is declaring our public purpose downtown partial power project. Trying to move forward to get those buildings served underground.
You need a motion.
Do I hear a motion or any discussion on that?
I don't think somebody just, that knows, so that everybody else will know to explain what public purpose means. We're spending money on it.
I think, Alan, I'll do my best to explain it to you. So, this gives us the right to be able to spend the money to put the power and have the usage in that area that belongs to these property owners. So the public is welcome at any time to be able to go on that property or do anything. And it gives us the right to go in there to work on any utilities that's got to be done. We'll maintain them if we have to tear it out. So that's basically what I can explain to you what the public purpose is.
So all the property owners did grant us the easements that we have been discussing?
They've got to sign the paper
I
now.
haven't received a signed copy. Have you got that, Dennis?
I know we have a new attorney, so I'm gonna throw him under the bus. Grace, was working with Jeff, and I think that got lost in translation there, so we were gonna shake hands with Butch and Mr. Kilgore there and move that forward. But as of today, I have not received any document. And the neighbors are eager to sign it, so as soon as we get it, we're just gonna button it up and send it over.
You're the bigger of the landowners. I think you had 8 different parcels. Is that right?
That's correct, but I
So
haven't.
you're eager to sign it?
Oh, yeah, but I haven't received a copy, so I don't know
I
what
got
I'm
you.
signing just yet.
I know that your attorney was working with
Grace.
back and forth, so I haven't received a copy
Yeah.
back of that.
Do we need to hold until we have those signed agreements?
Well, it can be,
Of course, I'm familiar generally with the Main Street project, but I'm not familiar with that particular document. I probably can find that file, but I don't have it, I have not looked at it before tonight.
Mayor, just to interject a little bit, I think what's being proposed tonight doesn't really tie into the easement part of it. That's a little separate. The easement changes, we already have something, Butch, in place. Basically, what we're adding is power and gas and communications. We already have gas, I'm sorry. It's the other utilities.
Drainage.
Yeah, so we have something in place already, signed by everybody.
So the public purpose, should it be voted on before we do this signed easement?
Yeah.
I'm asking the attorney.
I'm sorry, I apologize. We were back and forth about.
That's okay.
That's all right. We were back and forth about what we're looking for.
So the public purpose, we got it up for a vote tonight, if we want to vote on the public purpose, that's for us to be able to spend the money in that area and be able to do the work. Of course, I don't know that that's got anything to do with that easement. He's got to sign the easement before we do any more.
Because if the easement, if all the agreements from the property owners don't come back, we wouldn't be able to.
We wouldn't do no work if the easement's not.
That's right. And of course, as far as the public purpose is concerned, this body has to decide what is, is not a public purpose. And basically, the courts are very slow to question what the finding of your legislative body about what is or is not a public purpose. But it does need, it can't be for a private individual or a private corporation. That's prevented by sections 93, 94 of the Constitution. But if you find a public purpose, the courts will sustain it. It's in your wisdom, you see that as a public purpose. We've done such things as contract with Safe Way. I was thinking about Safe House to house single moms, and we contract with them. This commission finds this is a public purpose, but it's one isolated entity in one isolated location. But you find it's a public purpose in your hearts and minds and legislative exercise, then chances are good it's going to be a public purpose. It's broad.
I'd like to move forward with a motion to vote on this public purpose.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those like with
And I'll look at, Mayor, I'll look at Grace's file and see. It would help if you have an attorney, if he can get in touch with me, let me know what I'm looking for.
We'll make sure we get it.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Okay.
We have the easement on the agenda for the corrected version of the easement. There is a copy of that in your packet.
As a matter of fact, I believe I've lied to the council. I saw in the files as I was looking at it today, a copy of that draft of that easement. I did not realize.
I object.
I did not tie it to this instance we're talking about. I'm talking.
It says corrected at the top. It says corrected.
There is a corrected
Yeah.
easement, so it looks like it's ready to.
Yeah, I think so.
It's ready to execute. Have you seen that, Dennis?
No, sir, that's the one that we're waiting on. That's the one that the attorney's waiting to see.
But I also saw a draft of it in our files, independent of it. I just didn't associate it with
I
this.
know there's been some back and forth,
Yeah.
and that's what we're waiting on. I guess you're waiting the same thing.
My council member Kenneth D. Cost made a motion to authorize the Mayor Graham to sign the clear Main Street easement. Council member Mrs. Kay seconded the motion upon the vote.
You're just not giving them.
She signed the second. I make a motion. She seconded.
What is that now? Bring me up to speed.
He made a motion to go ahead and authorize you to sign the easement.
I started at 7.
Okay, I have a motion for me to sign the easement. Did Kay second that? Okay, motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed likewise. All right, we have Lydia, you still here? There you are. All right.
Sorry, I didn't know that it was going to go this long, guys. I just have a quick question, and I wanted to ask y'all to consider something. At the last council meeting, y'all voted for the mayor to eventually step down, but it wasn't really clear what the next step was going to be. But what was clear, at least to me from Grace, was that that next step needs to be decided by November. At least that was what I understood, and I could be mistaken. But my question to y'all is that the city manager form of government actually kind of seemed like a pretty good route, because it seemed like someone that, you know, y'all are all, with the exception of some of you, are part-time for us, even though I know that you work on your own time. I really, truly do. But I also know that y'all have other jobs and responsibilities and such. But a city manager would be full-time for the city and would be someone that would be accountable to each of you to work for each of you, if I understood correctly. But my question to y'all is, could we maybe do what some other cities have done, like Homewood? I mean, I know we're a little bit behind on it, but like Homewood did, and they brought in a city manager that had, you know, degrees and such with city management to talk to the citizens and to the council members and anybody else that wanted to attend. I know that I watched one that was from Homewood, and they came in to just talk in depth about all the different forms of government, because it seems like you're all doing your own research, which is great. I thoroughly appreciate that. But it sounds like as a city, y'all and the citizens need to have a deliberative conversation in what path we're gonna take in the future. But in order for us not to miss out on this next election, it needs to be decided by November. And I wasn't sure, and maybe they can answer this for us from the legal perspective of, if we did go with the city manager route, how do we do that? Does that have to be done by the citizens? And it just didn't seem 100% clear of, yes, the mayor's gonna step down eventually, but what steps are we gonna take next? Because I know that none of you want to just settle into, okay, well, we made one step, we're gonna sit here for 8 more years, you know, or 10, however many years.
I think we voted and approved what's gonna happen the next election, which is because of the population increase, the mayor will come off the bench. We'll no longer have a vote. You have a veto power.
But it didn't make it clear if that happens. From what Grace said, it sounded like you would have to go to either 5 or 7 council members. And if you're saying you wouldn't, then that would mean there would be 6 council members to vote. Who would be the tiebreaker? But who would be the tiebreaker? That's the point. If 3 and 3, you end up in this.
There's not a tiebreaker, it just doesn't pass.
Okay, well, from the citizen perspective, is there anyone that might look into having someone come in to talk to because it's also the citizens that want to know about all the different forms of government, because it sounded like we would have to take action if we were gonna go in a different route.
Mayor, if you'll let me answer that question, that is true. There's 2 routes that the city could take if it decided that it wanted to, in fact, have a city manager. One would be kind of the model that I guess you're most familiar with Pelham, where you hire a manager. There is another way that you can go. In fact, my city, the city of Madison, which I just left, actually went through this process where we basically, the first step in that process is that you have to have, I believe, 10% of the registered voters from the last election present a petition. And then once they present a petition, they submit it to a probate judge, and then the mayor declares an election on the issue. Then you set an election where it puts the people as to whether or not you're going to go under this new city manager form of government, which is very specific and set out in a very long code section. Whereas under the Pelham model, you can hire a manager and basically you can set the parameters of what that manager does or does not do, what their qualifications are, etc. So there are those 2 options before you. Nothing that y'all did at your last meeting precludes you from doing that or taking any of those actions. All those are still, you know, in your toolbox, and if y'all wanted to utilize those and have a discussion about it, you could talk about either of those options. But that anytime. So basically, that's something you can take up, you know, essentially whenever, you know, if you wanted to do it, not you pick it up next week or years from now.
Would that be a special election if that were done, so it doesn't have to be done with the normal election cycle?
Another good question, just really boils down to whether or not you have an election that y'all could set it at the same time, and that would kind of come down to your clerk and, some numbers that they might come back to. Sometimes it's just too hard, I'm sorry, getting ahead of myself. You can set them concurrently on the same election, but most of the time it's going to have to be a special election for a lot of different reasons.
With that in place, I would ask that I will partner with any of you if you are interested in possibly just learning more. I will contact people to try to have somebody come and meet if we could reserve a room here to be able to give just information like they did for Homewood about the different forms of government, because it seemed like everybody kind of was taking bits and pieces from Grace and we just kind of settled, instead of, like he said, we could add the city manager to what you already agreed on. It's not something that erases what you did, if I understood correctly.
That is correct. Basically, separate issues, basically, all that resolution did at your last meeting was, acknowledge that the council takes no action and it's going to move into, basically, the mayor is no longer a voting member, and you retain the 6 members. That's the only effect from the resolution last week. Anything else associated with any sort of city manager would have to basically be planned and go under a completely different mechanism under the code.
And if anybody would like to talk about that later, I will be available.
Jennifer, did you have something else that you wanted?
Oh, no, that was during the
Okay.
public hearing.
That's all I have on my agenda.
He did.